Hey there, I'm Papa Charlie again. Um, well, now that we got that mess cleaned up, I'm not really good about cleaning up after I get done. I clean up before I start, which that's completely backwards. I don't recommend it to anybody. But we've got the mess cleaned up. I've made some promises about different projects, and I just got to decide which one I'm going to do. I've got some cutting boards I could make. I've got a toy box that needs to be made. I've got a writing desk that I need to make and a coffee table that I need to make. So I have no lack of projects to take care of. Gonna try and get some things done. I've got all the lumber for the coffee table. I've got all the lumber for the toy box. I've got all the lumber for the cutting boards. We'll do the coffee table, or not the coffee table, the toy box. I've got a soon-to-be 3-year-old granddaughter. She'll be 3 in 6 days. And I think that would make a great birthday present for her. So they're going to need a toy box to keep everything organized and whatnot. So, let's do the toy box. That's the one we'll work on. So for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim these rounded edges off and hopefully be able to get a straight edge off of them. And then the dimensions on the toy box are going to be approximately 3 feet long by, I'm thinking 2 feet high and maybe 2 feet deep, maybe 2.5 feet. I don't really have any plans for it. I really do a lot of winging it with my projects. So come along and we'll figure it out together. Only getting 2 a piece out of that. Yeah, I was thinking I could get 3. Maybe I did only get 8 footers. I thought they were 10. Doesn't matter. It's what we've got. So we'll figure it out. You know, life throws us a lot of challenges. And when it does, you got to work with what you got, with what you're played, what you've been dealt with. Some of those times, we're the ones that make those challenges. You know, I've messed up plenty in my life and brought on more heartache and problems. No different than this toy box I'm trying to build. You know, you think you know what you're doing, you got yourself a plan in your head, and turns out your dimensions are wrong. Well, sometimes your thoughts are wrong. Sometimes your plans are just wrong. You know, you think you're in the right, you think you know what you're doing, and then you get messed up. Well, what do you have to do? In order to make the situation any better, you got to adjust, correct the situation. You know, that I believe it's the Marines that say adapt. Well, you have to adapt. That's, you know, the old saying, play with the cards you're dealt. That's what it's all about. You know, sometimes we just deal ourselves a really crappy hand. That's what's going on tonight. So we'll figure it out though. I just got to do some thinking, and I got to go over and see how much more lumber I've got. Like I said, we made a boo-boo. We were planning on going 2 feet high. I think 16 inches is going to be better. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more pieces of the 8-foot 1x4s. I can always go get more. That's not a problem. I can go grab some tomorrow. Unfortunately, don't have time tonight, but I can grab some more tomorrow. But for right now, we're going to go to 18 inches side, or tall rather. And I think we'll cut these down, these 2-footers, I think we'll cut those down to 1 foot. And we'll use those for the depth. So we're going to go 18 inches high, 3 feet wide, and I think we're going to go 1 foot deep. We might go 18 inches deep. I don't know. I should probably kind of lay out that size and see what I think about that, right? That'd probably be a good idea. You know, who comes up with the plan anyway? Somebody smarter than me? Probably, obviously. So we go 1 foot deep. Well, that's kind of shallow. Maybe go 16 inches deep. 16 inches deep, 16 inches tall. I think that'll work. I think that's what we're going to settle on. We're going to go 16 and 16, which basically means that I'm going to have a lot more scrap than I intended on, and I'm going to have to buy some more 1x. Not a big deal. 1x's are cheap. If you got into this to make any money, you got into the wrong business. You know, I do this for my family. I make projects for my family, more or less, which you can hear. I got dogs, I got grandkids, I got kids, wife. They're all making noise right now. So I think we're gonna stop for the moment, come back tomorrow and regroup. So we had a little bit of a setback yesterday. We doing everything from my head. I see the size I want it, but I don't know how to correlate that into actually inches and feet. So I misjudged. Not a big deal. Went ahead and went to the big box store, grabbed some more lumber today, and we're gonna try and at least knock out most of this yet tonight. I believe the dimensions we finally settled on were 18 inches deep, 18 inches high, and 3 feet wide. That's what we're going to try and stick to. In fact, I should probably write that down here. 18 by 18 by 36. Yeah. So let's go ahead and, at the very least, let's get one of these panels put together. I think I'm still going to have to cut some more edges off the 1x rather. Then we'll go 18 by 18 by 36. I think that's going to be a pretty fair size box. Gonna need a lot of 18-inch cuts, but I think I've got plenty of lumber now. So let's go ahead and get some of these 2-footers cut down to 18 inches, right? And that'll at least give us proper height dimensions. I'm gonna put these together, it's gonna be a glue and screw type thing. So I'm gonna be using some pocket hole screws and glue, but the assembly is gonna be not really any different than the planter boxes that you see everywhere. It's gonna be simple panels, simple sides, and we're gonna go from there. Let's go ahead and cut down at least 2 of these 2-footers, get them to cut down to 18 inches. And these are the 2-footers. Actually, yeah, doesn't matter. I can use these, I can use those scraps, I think. I think I might have enough left out of those scraps. We'll find out. Once again, we're winging it. That's what we do. We've got 2 18-inchers. One of the things I do want to do, 1.5 inches from the bottom. That way, it's not sitting flush on the floor. It will actually it'll actually, the bottom of the box itself will actually set up from the floor. So let me grab a straight edge here. Actually, you know what? Rather than pocket holes, I think we're going to use some glue and brad nails. They say the glue is stronger than the wood itself, and that it's more likely to tear out than actually having the wood is more likely to break than the actual glue breaking. And these are just 1-inch brads. Should be plenty to hold. I'm going to be using Titebond 3. That's what I use for everything. It's kind of just my coverall. It's waterproof, interior, exterior. So I don't see a project not to use it on. It might be, what, $1, maybe $2 more expensive. It's worth it. That way I know it's going to hold no matter what. Make sure we want to square it up. Put a good bit of glue in. You never know when one of these boards is warped or twisted. I mean, I did mill them myself, so. And as we've already witnessed, I screw up a lot. But don't we all? That's kind of the way life is, isn't it? Let's see how the squeeze out is on your side. No, not bad. Alright, there we go. We've got one panel. Actually, this is going to be the front side. This is going to be the outside. That's what it's going to look like right there on the outside. I think that's going to be pretty nice. So now, alright, we need some more 18s and some more 36s. And I will be milling out for this spot right here. I'll be milling one of these 1-bys down to the proper size, just so we go completely flush with the top. I think that's going to look pretty decent. We're going to mill up some more 18s, I believe, if I remember correctly. We're going to need some 18s. We're going to need a lot of 18s. And we're going to need some 36s too. So let's go ahead, and I'm not even going to bother recording this part because I've already recorded the milling process, taking the edges off the lumber. There's no reason to do it again. But I'm going to go ahead and take off the curves off the 1x4s, and I'll bring it back in for some more assembly. Sound good? Well, we've got everything cut this length, and we've got the one piece assembled. And we're going to have to assemble the other 3 sides, and still going to have to rip down one to the appropriate size, but that shouldn't be any issue. We'll lay out our 2 sides. Make sure we do this over here at the assembly table where there's actually a room. Oh, those could have been a little bit straighter boards. Some of those have some twists in them and some cupping, but you know, they say you're supposed to get your lumber acclimated to the area where you're doing your creating. Those have been sitting here for almost a month now, maybe even a month, so they should be plenty acclimated. But finished product, they've got some cupping. I'm not surprised. Next we're going to go ahead and mill out those last 2 pieces for the front and back of the toy box, and we're going to go ahead and get that measurement And look at that, inch and a half. Inch and a half. That makes sense. We went an inch and a half from the bottom. So our last piece, 3 times 6 is 18. They're 3 inches after milling them. So inch and a half on each one. That works. Now remember to leave room for your kerf. So I've cut 2 extra boards just in case. These are 36 inches. We're going to cut one down to 1.5 inches and see what the other half comes out to. So my granddaughter, who's going to be the recipient of this, she is autistic, which a lot of people would consider that a disability. While she may not have the ability to do everything right now, she's a high functioning, for the time being anyway, she's a little speech impaired. But I'll tell you what, last night we were all sitting in the living room as a family, and that little girl got so excited. We were watching a movie, and she didn't care about the movie. She was just excited that the whole family was in one room together, chilling out. And she was running from one end of the living room to the other, just giggling and laughing. It was a beautiful thing. And then she climbed up on the couch next to her mother and cuddled up. We all thought she was going to go to sleep. She didn't. But she just cuddled up and sat still with her mom for a minute. Actually, for about a half hour. It was a beautiful thing. She's nonverbal, but by God, is she something special. We could all learn something from that. At least I think so. I know I could learn something from her. Can you imagine how difficult it is to be that happy and not be able to express yourself? Because that's what she dealt with. But watching her with her mother, just sit there and cuddle with her mother, it stole my heart. It was absolutely beautiful. So Papa's gonna make her this toy box, something special for her. And I think she's well deserving of it. That's just one more thing that I've had to learn in life is that no matter what obstacle you're facing, you can make it through with a grin on your face, a laugh in your heart, and, maybe a little bit of cheap pine. Never hurt. Little cheap pine, a little bit of creative noggin. Well, if you look closely, they're not dead on flush. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's a toy box for a 3-year-old. Special, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have the skills to make it perfect. Not yet. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm down here working on it. Because I hope someday, I'm not going to reach perfection, but I hope that someday my skills do increase a good bit onto the 16 inch by 16 the side panels. Now, the way I plan to do this is we're going to take them, we're just going to lay them like that. I don't know if you can see that. That's probably a little too close. I don't know. Yeah. So what I'm showing, this is the side, and we're just going to lay them flush on the side. We want them flush to the top and bottom. And then what this is going to do, this is going to create a lip here so that we can go ahead and attach our next panels to it. That'll be our sideboards. So first we got to get these corners done. Let's set it this way. End up with more glue on my assembly table than on the actual lumber. All right, that's better. And brad nailer. And all we want to do is flush it up on both sides. Throw some brads. And there we go. There's our front and our back. Now, I'm going to have to figure out a way to do the sides. But I think I'm going to let this glue dry before I try and manhandle it too much. Just because it is being held with brad nails. We'll be back again tomorrow. Hey, it's Papa Charlie again. We left off last night with two sides done. And I had some really good ideas about that. I think I want to put a brace down the center of each one of these front and back walls. Give it a little bit more stability. 3 feet, not that far, but you know, I was thinking even flooring, you put or even walls, you put a stud every 16 inches. So I think I'm going to put one right down the center on each the front and back. And then we'll go ahead and we'll start assembling the sides. And won't be long and we'll get the bottom ledger put in so we can go ahead and put the bottom in. And then we'll start working on the top. So let's go ahead and get right to it. I'm going to need to go ahead and take some measurements. And got a couple of pieces of scrap. These were from the pieces that we cut last night. We're just going to use these here and cut them down to the right length. And we'll use these right down the center just to give them a little bit more stability, a little bit sturdier. So let me grab a measurement and we'll get right on. You know what? Let's just go ahead and make it an even 15 inches. I like easy math. So let's go to the miter saw, cut these down to 15. Why not? 15 inches. Yeah, I think that'll work out perfectly. We'll give a little bit more stability to the top of the box, and still leave room on the bottom for a ledger so we can go ahead and make sure the floor of the box is stable. 18 3/4. Right. Let's go ahead. And yeah, we'll glue it and screw it. or glue it and nail it. Actually, you know what? Let me see if we got the right size nails. Because it would be good to go ahead and screw that in, I think. Or, yeah, right size nails, right size screws. All right, so we're going to glue and screw. We're going to keep things flush, squared, centered, all of that fun stuff. But let's throw some glue on. Oh, helps if I open the bottle. Not sure if y'all can see that, but yeah, that took any warping out of the boards. I like that a lot. That looks good. All right. Move this one to the side. Bring the other one over. That should hold those in there plenty straight. One of the joys of working in a basement, especially my basement, I don't have very much headroom to work with. Now if I can drag it this way, I guess. Don't have a lot of headroom. But once again, we make do with what we have. And we want to start off at the bottom, so that means we need to turn the other way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue, but I think with these ones I'm going to go ahead and screw them from the inside. I'm going to put 2 screws in each one, I think. I think they'll hold. Let's see if I can hook a vise up to it, or not a vise, a clamp up to it, and squeeze that in, that 1/8 inch. I think it might be good right there. That'll do her. All right, if you notice, it's got a little bit of a bow to it. We're going to tighten that up with the clamp. Now we got to figure out what we're going to do about the bottom. So the side closest to you is the bottom. I think what's going to work best is we'll create a ledger right on the bottom lip, and then we'll go ahead and we'll cut 1-bys. We'll cut them to length the short way. We can put those in just like we did the side walls, and we'll probably glue and brad nail those in because we're worried about gravity, you know. they're not likely to come up, they're likely to go down. So I think glue and brad nails will work just fine for that. Make sure that's actually going to fit in. Oh, that'll fit perfect. Same for this. Absolutely. Got just a little bit of play for some growth. Because we've got these support boards in the center, and we want to be able to fit a board underneath them. We don't want a hole in the bottom. I've got to figure out just how wide I need these cut. Oh yeah, that'll work beautifully. That will work beautifully. So once again, we're going to glue and brad nail this flush with the bottom. So we've got the ledgers in place on both sides. Set it back down like this. And now we need a measurement from inside to inside, which we have somewhere right here. That would be 17 7/8. Just a shade short of 18 inches like we originally had planned. So we're in okay shape. We're gonna need 10 pieces, right? Yeah. That'll give us 35 inches. We'll shave an inch off of one of them. Glad I cut a couple extra because you look at the edge on this one. I don't know if y'all can see that, but that's pretty well chewed up. So we're going to scrap that piece anyway. So yeah, had we done what I was originally planning on, see that's not an inch, that's more like a 1/4 inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch. This wood is going to swell and contract as humidity changes in the air. So we don't want everything butted up real tight. You know, that's why I'm leaving just a small gap between everything. That way it gives it room to swell. You know, I'm leaving enough so that if it contracts, it's not going to fall through, but it's got room to swell. We are still going to attach it with brad nails, and we're going to attach it with glue, but we want to have that ability to swell and contract. So let's see if that'll fit in there now. Nope, not quite. I'm going to take just a shade more off. That should fit. It's still a little tighter than I like. See, we're creeping our way into the correct dimension. And that will work beautifully. I like that. Still got enough room to expand and contract. That'll work out gorgeous. All right. All right, time for some good old glue, and then we'll hit it with brad nails. We've got to figure out how long our slats are going to be for the top. So I think I want the top to go lengthwise. I think that'll be a little sturdier. Yeah. So I figure out that length, which I'm looking at it. We're right at 37 and a quarter. 37 and 3/8. So 37 and a quarter. I think if we go straight out to 39 inches, that'll give us about a 1 inch excess on each side, which I think would be good. And then front to back, if we go to 21, if we go to 21, what did I say? We're at 37. Let's go to 40. Ease of math. I like using math. We'll go to 40 and we'll go to 21. I think that's going to set nicely. So 40 and 21. Let me write that down because you've seen how my memory goes. So 40, and we have 21 that we have to get to. 3.5 at a time. How are we going to do this? We could glue the top down, glue the top together rather. You know, this is going to take some thought. Hey there. Sorry about that. Had to run some errands and do some chores and whatnot, but we got back to it this morning and did a little bit without y'all. I went ahead and I put the door together and getting ready to put the hinges on. We're closing this thing right down. Today's going to be the last day. All I've got to do is attach the hinges. Let's see how am I going to do this here. This here is going to be the door, the lid. All I did was take these 1x, line them up, screw these cross members in. They're going to attach. Going to attach flush on the back. It'll give us about a 1/2 inch overlap on the front end. And that's it. That's all we're going to do is throw some hinges on. So, not a difficult process. No reason to videotape. No reason to record that. So, thank you for joining me with this project. And I hope to see you come again. I think that's going to do it for this one. Again, thank you for joining me. If you've got something specific you'd like to see me make, throw it in the comments. Again, we'll see what we can do. I've got plenty of projects to take care of myself, but I'd rather make things that are inspired by you, my viewer. So again, thank you for joining. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I'd ask you to subscribe, and we'll head on to the next project. Thanks again.